Hello everybody and welcome into day number 3 of the classical of Hans's Hans Niemann versus the world match versus Nikita in London. Welcome into everybody watching from YouTube and from Twitch. It is great to see you guys here and welcome in. Hello, hello. Okay, I hear an echo for some reason. Let me just try and fix that before we continue. Sorry. Okay. All right, so welcome in. This is day number 3. We have the first game for the day just starting, and the first move has been played. Nikita has played the move d4. So the last 2 games, we have seen an e4 game. So we have seen those for the last 2 games, but today we're going to get something different. We're instead getting a d4 opening, and this may be a good sign because last time Nikita played d4, Hans won this game. I believe Nikita is 37 years old, and we talked about this, that Nikita actually only started playing chess at 10 years old and achieved Grandmaster at 20 years old, and then got to this 2700 level later than most. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Welcome everybody. Hans may be a little late to the game, so I do notice that Hans has not arrived at the board yet, so the clocks will not show anything until Hans plays his first move. I'm sure he's very soon on the way, but it seems like he has not arrived yet. Now, I am in a Zoom meeting. I'm not sure if the producers or anyone can hear this, but I am in a Zoom meeting, and somebody in the Zoom meeting for where I'm getting the camera from is unmuted, so there's some audio leaking through. So maybe if they want to make sure everyone's muted in that Zoom meeting, because I'm just hearing some muffled noises and that sort of thing. But yes, this morning I will be your commentator. This afternoon we will have, well, for me it's going to be 2 a.m, but this afternoon we will have Agne returning again to do the commentary, and I will join her for the start and then head out. So that's going to be the deal for today, and then we'll have some new commentators on tomorrow, so that's going to be really exciting. Some different commentators for the rapid and the blitz section. So we only have one move so far. Maybe we can predict what we think Hans is going to play. In the first game, I believe he played knight f6, and he went for a Nimzo Indian with e6 and bishop e4, and he ended up playing a really nice game, d5, c5. So I think he might go for knight f6 again, but also in some of the games versus Anish, he was playing d5. So we could see d5, and we could also see knight f6. Sometimes there's some circumstances that means it's impossible for you to arrive on time, like maybe, I don't know whether he's living close to the tournament hall, maybe something has stopped him from getting here on time. But as long as you arrive within 30 minutes of the clock starting, you should be fine. You should be fine. But now Nikita is getting up and taking a walk and sort of seeing, okay, where's my opponent at? Yes, I think this is very strange for a one-on-one match to be late to the match. It is not going to happen often, but I suppose there is some reason for it. Well, Hooligan Hans has started with the black pieces every day, so it may feel like Hans is playing the black pieces every day, well, every game, because each day he is starting off with the black pieces and then having the white pieces for the later game. All right, well, let's hope that Hans arrives soon. Yeah, public transport, anything, I don't know, anything could be the case, but hopefully, yeah, coming late to your own tournament. Welcome in. I will answer any questions that people have while we're waiting for Hans to arrive here. So if anybody has any questions about the match format, about the games, about something that you might have missed yesterday, about me or some of the other commentators, feel free to ask them now. Feel free to ask those now. I wonder if there's any way I can mute the audio on Zoom, just so I'm not hearing this audio coming through. Okay. Yeah, so the latest you can show up before you call it, each tournament will have its own forfeit time, it's called. So there'll be a specific time where if you don't arrive within that time, the game is automatically lost by a forfeit. Now, if you do forfeit, you don't actually lose any FIDE rating. So you don't lose any FIDE rating for forfeiting. So sometimes if somebody is not so great of a sport and they're scared they're going to lose to someone lower rated, then they won't show up. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen today, because obviously Hans is coming for the match. But sometimes people don't show up because they don't want to lose rating. But it will be determined by each tournament. Sometimes they'll have shorter or longer forfeit times, but usually it's going to be 30 minutes. Score is wrong? Oh yeah, you're right. Let me update that. So we had 2 draws, I think, since then. Wait, what is the current score? I'm sorry. Does anybody know what the current score is? So we've had two draws. So it'll be 7.5 for Hans. Right? Wait, it's 3-6? Oh, okay, cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was 7.5, but I wasn't sure. Okay. Yeah, because they've had... This is game number 5, yeah. So it was 3-6 in the round before, I think. Okay. Oh my gosh. Can't type. Okay, there we go. There we go. I'm just manually writing those in. So since I wasn't hosting the stream last night, I haven't updated them. I haven't updated them since then. But, all right. Where is Hans? Only Hans knows this. I have no idea where he is, and nor does anyone in chat. But I'm sure we'll see him arriving very soon, maybe a little bit rushed, walking in like, looking a bit stressed. Call Hans. Yeah, we better call Hans. We need a pre-game interview. Will they also play Blitz? Yes. So this is the last day of the Classical. So 3 days of Classical, and then 1 day of Rapid, and 1 day of Blitz. So I believe Rapid is tomorrow, and then Blitz is on the final day. Oh, there's Hans. Okay, he has arrived. He is here. Yay! I was getting a little worried there for a moment, but it's okay. Okay, now he has arrived. I guess if he comes on for an interview today, we have to ask him why he was late in the first round. Just to ask him exactly what happened there. But all right, he wasn't too late. He's getting to the board now, writing down the details. Welcome in, everybody. All right, so he's probably taking a moment to compose himself, and now adjusting the pieces. And then we have knight to f6 on the board. So yes, he goes for this knight to f6 move again. I wonder if we will see a Nimzo Indian again. This could be a really exciting game if we see something similar. So we had Hans winning a super amazing game with the black pieces in the first round, but then we have had 3 draws in a row. Okay, we have c4. Let's see if Hans responds with e6. e6 is sign he wants to bring this bishop out to b4 and play a Nimzo Indian. And the idea is basically with playing e6, you haven't decided yet whether you're going to push c5 or d5 or both. He does play e6, so you're not committing to pushing either one of these pawns just yet. First, you're just going to play this e6 move, bring out the bishop, and then you decide whether you want to play c5 or d5 in the future. Whether you want to control some of the light squares or some of the dark squares. So e6 is on the board. Let me put the eval bar on so you guys can see all of that. And now we have knight to f3. So knight to f3 is known as the anti-Nimzo. If white had played knight to c3, then this would be a Nimzo Indian. And the threat is basically that you want to take here and double the pawns and ruin white's structure on the queen side in exchange for the fact that you're giving up the bishop pair. You also get castled super quickly. You can get castled on move 4, which is one of the fastest in chess, I believe. So yeah, that's the goal. But instead, white has played knight to f3 here. So that is what we have on the board. And I will just refresh so that we can see the clock ticking down. So we have knight to f3 on the board, which is the anti-Nimzo. And now we have d5. Now we have d5 pushing it in the center. And now the knight comes to c3. So now after this, you can play bishop to b4, but I believe it's called something different. It's called the Rogozin opening rather than the Nimzo-Indian at this point, because now you've brought in this d5 move. Yeah, I think Hans looks a little tired today. Maybe all of this chess over and over is getting to him. I know if I was playing 2 classical games every single day for the past few weeks, I would be exhausted. So maybe he's a little tired today. But that's all right. He was drinking his espresso. Both players are covering their faces. I'm wondering if the camera is frozen or they're both just really... It looks like both players are just meditating right now. I really can't tell if the camera is frozen or if they're both just having a sleep. Like they are so still. Oh, okay, he moved, okay. Okay, the camera is not actually frozen. I really thought it was. All right, so I think we have c5. Is that what is happening on the board there? I think Hans has played the move c5. Okay, and this is a bit of an aggressive way to... Yeah, I really thought it was frozen, but they were just that still. Oh, okay, we have a... Oh my gosh, this is so fancy. He has a waiter coming around offering them coffee, I think. Okay, he's brought a coffee over to Hans. He's probably happy about this. Early in the morning, 10 a.m. Yeah, catching up on some sleep. I think it's a good time. Classical games are so long that you can take an hour nap and still have plenty of time on the clock. Okay, so we have c5. Basically, this move challenges the center, threatens to maybe take on d4 in the future, and controls some dark squares. Now here, white trades off the c pawn for the central d pawn. So what white is doing here is getting rid of one of their flank pawns and in exchange taking one of Hans's central 2 pawns. And if Hans captures back with this e pawn, then he will just have an isolated queen pawn in the center, which isolated queen pawn positions are really exciting and can be played very aggressively. So we did also have a little bit of an in-between move from Hans. Rather than just directly recapturing on d5 with the pawn or the knight, he first decides to take on d4, and then the queen captures. So it does look a little bit strange to put the queen in the center so early on in the game. But I think here, a nice thing is that black can't really go with knight to c6 directly to kick out the knight from the center. So here, now Hans takes back the pawn on d5, and now he has this isolated queen pawn. It has no pawns on either side of it, so it's just a lone pawn in the center on the queen's file. So this is going to be difficult to deal with. Hans will have to try and defend this pawn, and on the other hand, Nikita will be trying to attack this pawn and maybe trying to win the game by attacking this pawn and winning the weak pawn. So here we have e4 though. Here we have e4, and here Hans can take on e4. This will mean though that there is a trade of the queens, which leaves Hans's king out in the open, which I'm sure he's fine to play, and he does this. Okay, I'm a couple moves behind. Let me just catch up. We have takes and takes. And now temporarily Hans will be up a pawn, but this pawn up here, it's basically lost. It's left for dead. There is no way that you can keep a hold on it, especially after this move knight to g5, which creates a double attack on the pawn, but also attacking this pawn on f7. So there's really nothing that you can do to defend both of these pawns at once. So here Hans plays bishop to e6. And what he is offering is he's offering the knight to capture on e6, giving up the bishop pair, but temporarily holding on to the extra pawn. So white can decide whether they want to take on e4 or if they want to capture this bishop on e6. They take on e6, and this is the current position. I was a little bit behind. I think they've just made another move though, so we're not slowing down at this point. We have a trade on e6. So Hans actually has a really difficult position right now where he has these doubled e pawns and a king in the center, and white is playing this position with 2 bishops. So bishop to c4, very nice. This attacks the pawn on e6 and will force Hans to play something like king to e7, bringing his king up here. Maybe the king is more safe on e7 compared to d8 anyway. But since the queens are traded off, it's really not too much of a worry for him to have the king in the middle of the board. This is fine. So we do see king to e7, defending the pawn. And then I think down the line, this pawn will be lost. But for now, it's an extra pawn. And I have noticed that in the last couple of games, Hans seems to be playing with an extra pawn and Nikita playing with the bishop pair. At least this was the same as the game yesterday, where Hans played the Berlin defense and he was up a pawn, but Nikita had the bishop pair and was able to draw. So we might see some similar stuff. And what I'm wondering is today going to be another draw? I would say this isn't really theory. There's only ever been four master games in this position. Okay, there has been a master game between Wesley So and Magnus Carlsen in this position, so probably this is something they've studied before. 2 games actually between Magnus Carlsen and Wesley So in 2020. So they probably studied this before, but it hasn't happened many times. Only 4 games. All right. So we are up to date with the analysis. I'm sorry it was a little bit behind. It was just moves were coming in so fast and I wanted to make sure that I went through all of them. And thankfully in Classical, if you're a couple moves behind for the very start, it's all right because at some point they're going to go into a 20-minute think and then I'll wish I was behind on moves because then I'm going to run out of things to say. But we have castles. Yeah, the speed at which they're playing does make it seem like this is prepared. I mean, Hans knows the Nimzo-Indian lines very, very well. Knows them very well. I believe the Nimzo-Indian was the game that... Nimzo-Indian was the opening that Hans played where he famously defeated Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces. So he's very, very knowledgeable in this opening. Very, very knowledgeable. So we have Nikita is castling, getting the king safe, and what will Hans do here? So here, I don't think the goal is really to hold on to this pawn, but it might be that Hans will bring his pieces to defend the pawn for now. So he probably knows in the long run that this is a weak pawn. It's really not going to amount to much. But for now, he can maybe think of ways like knight d7 to c5 to at least hold on to it, force white to bring all the pieces to try and attack the pawn. And then in the meantime, Hans can just develop his pieces because at the moment, white has some more development. They have the bishop and the knight out. They are also castled. Hans's king is still in the center of the board, and he only has 1 knight out. So he might just try and say he's holding on to this pawn for now, just so that Nikita will have to play a few moves to attack it. You can see the board now. Oh, you can see everything is good? You can see everything on screen? Okay. So yeah, this will be the point where Hans decides his plan. Engine is also just suggesting king to f7, just moving the king further out of the way of the center, and also opening up this dark square bishop. So we need to start bringing our pieces into play. King f7 does make a lot of sense because this dark square bishop currently on f8 is completely blocked by the king. And you do not want to have your king standing in front of your pieces and blocking them and stopping them from moving. What's my favorite format? I love to watch rapid chess. I think rapid chess is super fun because it's fast enough that something is always happening, something is very exciting, but also slow enough that often there's some good calculation still, some great moves. I don't know, I really like to watch rapid chess. Okay. Yeah, this king will likely go over here, and then this knight from d7, I think it is heading up to c5. Okay, he does go knight to d7 first. Either one of these moves is okay. So yes, this knight will likely head up to this square where it keeps an eye on this pawn in the center. You can play rook e1, try and attack the pawn. You can also play rook to d1 and start trying to take control of the open file. Most chess fans, wait, I'm confused. I'm not sure if people are trolling in chat or if they can't see the board. Can you guys see the board? This is the live position, by the way, if anyone is curious. This is the live position. Okay. So, yes, this is the live position. I am drawing some... Oh, there were issues yesterday. Okay, okay. Good, good, good. Yeah, this is the live board. I'll try and not play with it too much, but I do want to show some plans because otherwise I'm just going to sit here in silence. So I will try and show you some plans of what might happen. Okay, so yes, maybe this knight will go up to c5. Also, you need to start thinking about at some point king f7 will probably happen. Otherwise, you're really not getting this bishop out unless you play something like g6 and bishop g7. But that feels not very natural to push this pawn over here to g6. It seems like just weakening even more Okay, so rook to d1 is played. The rook is placed on the open file. The rook is placed on the open file. And maybe Hans also wants to place a rook of his own on the open file. So rook to c8 can be played. There are two open files here. And this rook could maybe come out here. There's also the option to play a6 at some point and just prevent any sort of knight b5 ideas. Stop the knight from infiltrating. I'm sorry, I'm drawing way too many arrows here, but I'm just trying to work out some of the plans in this position. So a6, b5 could be a plan, trying to kick away these pieces from their good positions in the center of the board. Yeah, that's the thing I've noticed, that Hans' positions always look very awkward when you're looking at the board. If I didn't really have the eval, I would say black is probably worse here. So this is showing my understanding is not the best, but I think that if I saw this and I didn't see the eval was like plus 0.1, okay, white has the tiniest of tiny advantages, I would probably say that I would think that black is going to be worse here because white has the two bishops, some open files to play on, is castled, active pieces, great pawn structure. Okay, black has this extra pawn, but really I don't think this extra pawn counts for too much. But that is the great thing about the way he plays. He's happy to play positions that look uncomfortable. He doesn't want to always play the principled, boring chess. He wants to play exciting, innovative ideas. So I really do like the fact that he's happy to break this mold of, okay, you have to keep your pawns, keep your pawn structure perfect. You have to play with the bishop pair. He is doing something a little bit different here. He's grabbing the pawn. This is maybe the more modern style of chess where you play a little bit more materialistically. Whereas some time ago, it was really focused about having great pawn structure, good piece harmony. Maybe that's the more modern way to play where you focus on just getting more material and trying to make these plans work. So he plays rook to c8, and now this is looking nice. This rook has immediately been brought to an open file, which is great. So here it is also attacking the bishop, of course. So that's an important thing to remember. So the bishop does really need to move somewhere. If you're not moving the bishop, a way to defend it could be with b3. But b3 looks very awkward to me here. Like pushing b3 to defend the bishop kind of just leaves this knight without a defender. If at some point Hans goes for this a6, b5 idea, maybe there's b5 tactics in the future where you could try and deflect the bishop from the file to attack the knight behind. So you would sort of create yourself some more problems than you solve here, I think, by playing b3 to reinforce the bishop. So you really should move it somewhere. There's an option to move it up to b5, but I think then Hans could just quickly respond with something like a6. So maybe the best way to go is to bring it all the way back. And that's maybe why the engine is recommending bishop e2 or bishop f1. Because if you go back to b3, you block the b pawn. There's never an idea for a b4 push if a knight is coming to c5 also, because you're blocking the b pawn with your bishop. What is the engine depth at? It is at depth 34. Thank you, thank you. If anybody has any questions, any ideas for moves you would like to see analyzed on the board, just let me know in the chat. I will try and read Twitch chat, YouTube chat, all of the chats. If queens are off, that means it's a dead draw. You know, I was looking up this morning because I was like, how many games are a draw? At the 2750 level, about 70% of classical chess games are draws. Now, they're not quite 2750, but I was just looking at the 2750 level, the fact that almost, or even at some points, more than 70% of classical games end in a draw. That's really, really crazy to think that even at just GM level in general, at least half of the games are draws. But yes, of course with the queens off, suddenly things start to look a little more drawish, but I think there's still a lot to go in this game, still some exciting things to be happening. I think the way that Hans is playing this position, at least even if it is a draw, it's really interesting to see this style of play. Okay, so the bishop has returned back to f1. But back to this f1 square. Okay. Sorry, there's somebody. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of noises coming through the Zoom call. Okay, I need to tell this. I need to say that somebody needs to mute themselves on the Zoom call. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys can hear this, but there's some very loud noises. to mute. Okay. All right. I don't think you guys should be able to hear it too much, so it should be fine for you. I'm just hearing lots of noises through the Zoom call. Okay. What noise is great? If you can't hear it, that's great. That's great. You can't mute someone else. All I can hear is you typing. I'm sorry. Okay. We've had some famous almost all draw tournaments, like the candidates. There's a lot of draws. Is Hans the best player in the world all of a sudden, sweeping these scrubs every day? Hans has really improved. I mean, his arc has been amazing to watch. But not the best chess player in the world yet, but he's certainly getting there. I'm sure he'll be getting there soon. Okay. No, I am not a GM, to anyone asking. I'm not the strongest player, but I will try and give you guys the best commentary that I can. I mean, yeah. Okay. So yes, this bishop that was attacked by the rook has returned to f1. So now this could be the time to go up to c5 with the knight. So the knight can head up to c5. This is going to defend. This is going to defend the pawn on e4, and then if you push something like b4, the knight can go up to d3, and the rook will unveil an attack on the c3 knight. And I think this would be nice. Although after knight d3, there is knight takes e4, so it would get complicated. Maybe you take on c1. All right. But yes, knight c5 is an option, but you can also just move the king. Maybe it is the time to play king f7, but that does mean that the d7 knight is undefended. There's one Singapore Cup where there were 8 decisive games and 9 full round. Oh wow, yeah, a lot of draws. A lot of draws. Hans versus the universe, that's next. First it's Hans versus the world. Once he defeats the world, then he's got to go against the universe. He's got to go to the International Space Station and play chess there. Yeah, so you can go king e8. That keeps an eye on the d7 knight. King f7 opens up the bishop, but does leave this knight on d7 a little bit less comfortable there. I think this bishop is coming out to g5 at some point in the future. g5 or f4 maybe even. It could come out to one of these squares. You can hear the background noises now. Yeah, I can. I'm not sure how. Can you mute someone else on Zoom? I haven't used Zoom in a long time. Okay. Yes, it's Hans commentating Hans. Okay. I have no idea how to mute them because I'm not the leader of the room, if that makes sense. Okay. Thank you to all the kind comments. Yeah, so what I'm wondering is we have had, okay, I'll try and mute the app at some point. But I won't get too focused on technical difficulties. I've messaged them and hopefully they will mute themselves at some point soon. Okay. It's like having a co-commentator. Yeah, it's like this. I get to talk to this random noise in the background. Last time you were on a video conference, you accidentally muted your boss. How do you know all that chess theory? I mean, I love theory, you know. So I'm not the best chess player, but I love theory. And I think like most players when they first start playing chess, learning a lot of theory makes you feel like you're in control of the game, and it's very exciting. So when I first started playing chess, all I wanted to learn was a bunch of theory about openings. So yes, but then when it gets to other parts of the game, okay, I'm not so good. My endgames need a lot of work. All right. I will try and mute the application. Really sorry about this, guys. I feel like every time we have some technical difficulties, but I will get back to the chess very, very soon. I'm just going to try and mute the Zoom because it's very loud in my ear. I'm glad if you guys can't hear it too much, but it's very, very, very loud in my ear. Okay. Let's try this. Okay. Sound settings. Okay. This will give me just a moment. I did it. Okay. I did it. I muted it. Yay. All right, now I won't be distracted. It's just because it was so loud in my ear. Every time I was trying to talk about something, all I could hear was something in the background, and it was very distracting. Agne is going to be on later tonight, Eunice, so anybody who's missing Agne, don't worry, she will be here later tonight for commentary of the second round. I will join her for the start, and then she will commentate the rest of it, and she's going to be awesome. So you guys will see her later in the second game for today, and that might be a more exciting one, because, okay, we've had 1 win to start off with and then 3 draws. And I'm just wondering whether Hans' strategy here is just to draw his way out of the rest of the classical and then try and go for the push for the win in the rapid or the blitz. Because he performed in the last match, he performed very well in the blitz. And also on the last day, he did well in the rapid. Yes, it was equal scores, but he was kind of just trying to get through the games because he already knew he was winning the match. So the rapid and blitz section, he did very well in. He's a very strong blitz player. So I wonder if he is just going for the last couple of games, trying to play for the draw his way out with a lead, because he already does have a 3-point lead due to his win in the first round. But still, that doesn't mean that he's playing for a draw today for sure. But it doesn't, with the queens off the board, it does seem like it's not going to be a super aggressive attacking game. It might be just more of a positional game. Yes, maybe Hans can win if Nikita is messing up, and vice versa. Nikita can win if Hans is messing up, of course. But it doesn't really seem like it's going to end in a win. Yes, he does already have a lead, but that can quickly change. So yes, I think this king will go to the f7 square. We'll bring this knight up to c5, reinforcing this pawn. We'll put the king over on the f7 square, and then we'll try and work out a square for the bishop. Maybe it goes to b4, like maybe we could try and put pressure on this knight that's on c3. Because, you know, maybe if we trade off the knight, it's a lot more difficult for white to win back the pawn with the 2 knights defending. Why don't they just memorize the good moves? Well, they do. They do. Somebody asks, why don't they just memorize the good moves? They have to a certain extent, and that's why they were playing super, super quickly for the first 10 to 12 moves usually, because they've memorized that all. But beyond a certain point, chess has so many different branches that it can go down, it's impossible to remember them all. I mean, if somebody managed to remember every single chess position, every single line in chess, they would be superhuman, I think. But they do have a good idea. Players this strong, who have been playing their whole life, do have a good idea of what should be a good move or should be a good idea in the given position because they've studied so much. Okay. Black can't avoid a draw if white is a super GM who doesn't make any mistakes. Yeah, I think the thing was, I know that Anish does have a reputation, so Hans did play against Anish in the first match. I know that Anish does have his reputation of being like draw Anish Giri, drawing a lot, but he actually plays some very aggressive attacking chess, whereas Nikita seems to have a very solid style. So that's, again, the style of chess that you're playing against may make it more difficult for you to get wins. Like maybe the draws could be easier to earn, but maybe more difficult to get wins if you're playing against someone who is just ultra solid with the white pieces. So yeah, if you're looking at this position on the board, the blue arrow will show you the top engine move. So this is currently the best engine move to put the knight on c5. So I will quickly play with the board for a moment just because he's having a long think here and it doesn't look like he's about to move. So I'll try not to do it for too long and then I'll get back to the position when I can. But yeah, knight c5 is an option here and we're bringing a knight to the center and we're reinforcing this pawn. I was wondering if b4 is possible, but there's actually, interestingly, after knight to a6, The engine gives black the very smallest of advantages. But it does look like an interesting way to play, but Hans has played a move now. Okay, let's see what he's played. Let's see what he's played. I was interested about b4 and what you would have to do, because you can hop forward, but also hopping back is apparently good. You give white the opportunity to double the pawns, ruin the pawn structure even more. We should see the move coming through on the board soon. I'll just refresh, make sure we see it all. Okay, yes, knight to c5 has been played. Okay, so this is where we're going to see what Nikita will play here. So there's a lot of options here for white. So yeah, I was looking at this b4 move because this is something that immediately challenges the knight that's on c5. But this is giving, well now, before it gave black a small advantage, but now on higher depth the engine thinks it's exactly equal after b4. So you can go knight to d3 here, but then the knight can capture on e4. And then there's just some crazy sort of simplifications here. I think this would simplify the position very, very fast. So I don't think you would want to hop forward here if you're playing as black. This gives up this pawn due to tactics. And then you can go to a6 with the knight. You can go to a6 with the knight and then attack the b4 pawn. You do allow this doubling of pawns if white wants to take like this, but this knight on c3 is hanging actually. So the knight on c3 is hanging. So something like bishop to d2 needs to be played. And then you can capture on b4. So this looks kind of interesting. This idea that you can go back to a6 and target the b4 pawn. So b4 will probably not be played, I don't think. I think this is too much of a aggressive move here for white. With Nikita's playstyle, he seems to play a lot of very solid developing moves. So what we might see next is just this bishop being developed. The ideal square is to go to the g5 square, pinning the knight to the king. Draw seems good. Yeah, draw is a good result for Hans. I mean, getting a draw when you're in the lead is nice. So bishop g5 here is the option. And they're just putting pressure on this e4 pawn. I mean, firstly, it gets your bishop out, but also it puts pressure on the e4 pawn because this knight no longer actually defends the pawn because the king will be captured if you move this knight, obviously. So something like king f7 can be played to get yourself out of the pin. And then it's actually an option to just trade off the bishop for this knight, which looks very interesting. Just play this position where it's bishop and knight versus bishop and knight. Get rid of the bishop pair. And basically just trying to attack these weak pawns in the center. So these pawns here are going to be definitely a big target here for white. So this is possibly something that could happen, bishop g5, and maybe a trade over here. So yes, b4 was something I analyzed, but I don't think it looks very nice after knight a6. This pawn on b4 is becoming really weak. Okay, what else can you do? Because after b4, of course, the main problem is that your knight will be under attack. So what else can you do here? Can you go bishop to f4? Is this a possible move? Okay, bishop to f4 is possible, threatening to maybe come in and start attacking on the d6 square. But here Hans can just go king to f7, and then he's got this nice, solid, and safe king position. He is quite comfortable here now. So the king is now hidden away. It's gone away from the center where it was and gone from d7, e7, all the way to f7, where it feels a lot more safe. And then here now, after the king has moved, this bishop can come out to e7, a rook can come to d8, and everything looks a lot more okay for black. The main thing I would be worried about is these two pawns here for black. I mean, this pawn will obviously be the loss, but this pawn on e6 is also something you have to watch out for. That's a great question. So somebody asked b4, knight b3. Now this could be an interesting way to try and play tactically. So knight b3, and the idea is that if they take you here, you can take the knight on c3, but a7 will be hanging, right? And then b7 is also going to come under attack. So if after b4 you play knight b3, attacking the rook, they will capture. And then after you take on c3, a7 will be captured and b7 probably will be lost as well. So I think this would be very, very bad. Yeah, this is very, very bad, unfortunately. It looks like a cool idea, but after takes and rook takes a7, b7 is going to be lost. b7 is going to be lost because you can't go rook c7 back to defend because bishop f4 will be played. And then there is no way your rook can stay on the same file here. So after b4, you really can only go back to a6 or go forward to d3. So yeah, this is the immediate way to challenge the position. And yeah, here takes, and you can take this bishop down on c1. Maybe you want to play like this. You give back your pawn, but in return, you take away white's bishop pair. So this could be a way that Hans could play if he just wants to go straight down the line of a draw. But yeah, somehow I feel that b4 is not going to be played. Now, let's see. We have a move on the board. We have knight to b5. Knight to b5 by Nikita. And now the good thing about this is you can plan to play b4 maybe in the future, and your knight won't be hanging. But also you're just straight up attacking this a7 pawn. So yes, the pawn on a7 is coming under attack. And you really, okay, let's see. Let's see, so this pawn is under attack. If you play a6 here, then is the problem knight d6? I'm trying to work out what exactly it is. Okay. Or just b4. Maybe like knight d6 and then b4? Okay, wait, let me just take a look at this. If a6 is played, knight d6, okay, knight d6, and then the rook will move somewhere. Okay, rook c7. And then here, the bishop can come out to f4. Okay, so this looks interesting. You don't necessarily win the pawn back straight away, but the knight is in d6. The bishop has come out to f4, and it looks a little bit scary. It looks a little bit scary. Okay, black can respond with something like knight to d5, but then there's crazy tactics like knight f5, attacking the rook. So lots of tactical opportunities down this line, actually. So a6, a6 is maybe okay, but you need to respond to it very well. After a6, knight d6, you need to go rook c6, attacking the knight, and maybe try and force it to go back. Because, okay, here, if bishop f4 is played, then knight d5 is working. There is no knight f5 check attacking the rook here, because the rook is on c6 instead of c7, not on a dark square anymore. So here, the knight is coming into danger because you're attacking this bishop that's defending it, and you're threatening to capture and get 2 pieces for the rook. So, all right, let's see what is played here. Knight b5 is on the board, and Hans just responds with a very calm move of king to f7. He just moves his king out of the way, avoids any of these complications, doesn't worry about the pawn. So a6 was possible if you wanted to hold on to it, but it doesn't happen. Instead, he does play king to f7. Okay, what a great move, and it was the best move too. It was the best move. Okay, and here the idea is after knight a7, we're just going to play rook a8, put pressure on this knight, make the knight move back, and then just use this time to develop the pieces. Here the bishop is going to come out to e7. This rook is coming to d8. For now, you're giving up you're giving up your pawn, not another pawn. You're giving up your a7 pawn, but we had an extra one to start with. And then all the pieces for black are just going to be coming into really nice positions. The king is now safe. So this is really great. Okay, so it looks like we've had another move being played. It looks like he is captured on an a7. I'll just wait for the DGT board to update. Let me just refresh. Okay. So he captures here on a7. And immediately Hans responds with rook a8, because this is the only way to play, really. You attack the knight, you make it leave, you send it out of there. There's no way that you can or you want to keep this knight in here. This is not where the knight wants to be. Somebody is saying, please hydrate. That's a good idea. I've been talking a lot. Sometimes I get a little carried away. Okay. So, rook a8, knight b5. And somebody is asking, why no knight b3? Knight b3 looks like a great move. I like this idea. Knight to b3, we're attacking the bishop, we're attacking the rook. Obviously, you cannot capture because this rook will be hanging. Apparently white can just respond with knight to c7, attacking this rook again. But also rook b1 maybe looks standard, but after rook b1, then we recapture the pawn that's on a2. So white has won the a pawn down here, but then we win it back up here. Rook is infiltrating over here. This looks nice. And then on the next move, we might take this bishop, unless it moves somewhere else, unless it gets out to f4 or something. Then for now, this knight will camp out on b3, and we can bring a bishop to c5. And this is looking very good. And our knight on f6 is always stopping this rook from coming in and giving it check as well. So this is very nice knight. Unfortunately, I am not a YouTube mod, so I cannot ban this person. Hopefully we get a YouTube mod in the chat. All right. So yes, knight b3 is definitely an option here. But I wonder whether Hans will play out. Hans always seems to play with a lot of precision. He doesn't play the move that is just good. He plays the move that is great. And here you don't have to play knight b3, but it's definitely a nice way to just try and win back the pawn, because knight b3, yes, knight c7 can be played, but you don't have to let them capture. Like for example, if you take down on a1 and they take over here, yes, it will just be a trade of rooks. But after knight c7, you can just move the rook. You can play rook a5. And then after this, rook b1 will be played. And then you can capture on a2. You can take on c1. So there's a lot of options here. Okay, he played it. Did he play it? Okay, sorry, my board is not updating. All right. Oh, we do have this on the board. I'm so sorry. Okay, at least I was showing the lines that were actually happening. So we have, okay, knight to b5 has been played. It is on the board. And then Hans does play knight to b3, attacking this rook. You can't take because your rook will be hanging here. And rook b1 is played. And then Hans decides to capture the bishop on c1. And maybe this is a wise decision rather than straight away taking on a2 and allowing the bishop to come into f4 and start really putting pressure on this d6 square. Instead, he takes away the bishop first, removes the bishop pair, and then maybe after this he will take on a2. But let's make sure that I've not missed anything. I will refresh again. Okay, knight takes c1. Knight takes c1. Yeah, we don't have the flickering TV today. Someone says they left the TV off. So yeah, there won't be a party TV in the background. Why so many draws? I was talking about at the 2700 level, almost 70% of games, classical games end in draws. The thing is, people are so good at chess these days that they don't make mistakes. And then a lot of draws happen. They don't make mistakes. Unless somebody makes a mistake, then it's just a draw. And, you know, okay, maybe there is less draws if people go into these really sharp, aggressive lines. But it's not happening so much. A lot of strong players just want to play solid. And then there's a lot of draws. But this is okay for Hans because he's up in the match. So draw with black pieces. For some people, a draw with black pieces is basically a win. This is cola. This is cola. Somebody is asking what I was hydrating with. It's not wine. I'm not drinking on the job, I promise. This is just cola. So Nikita is 2678, but has peaked in the 2700s, 2750 even, just some years ago. So he's a very, very strong player. Very strong player. Okay, yeah. If we have a YouTube mod in the chat, we can ban this person who was spamming, but I don't think we do yet. Okay. So Hans is walking around. He's like so nonchalantly walking around, like, yeah. Like he's not sitting at the board even. Okay. So Nikita is in some thought, using his time. You know, in this game, Nikita has played super quickly. So I guess this is all preparation. Well, not all preparation, but I assume that up until very recently, a lot of this would have been preparation. And when I looked at his opening database, he tends to play d4 and c4 openings pretty much 90% of the time. So when he was playing e4 in the previous game, maybe he got a little bit lower on time because he was a little less familiar with the positions. But here, he's probably very, very comfortable. He's probably played a lot of games like this for at least the first 10 moves of the game many, many times. So here, I guess he is deciding with which rook should he capture the knight. And it's always the question. I think my intuition, well, not my intuition, but my brain would probably tell me to capture with the b rook. But it is slightly better to take with the d rook. Because I would be thinking, oh, this b rook over here, it's not really doing too much. I want to take with the c rook and control not one, but two open files. Bring in two rooks. But it's ever so slightly better to take with the D rook. And I wonder why exactly. I want to think about this. I think the idea may be that we want to try and play rook to c7. And maybe the point is that this rook on the d file, it is strong, it's controlling an open file, but it doesn't have an infiltration point. You know, a lot of squares here are actually controlled by Hans's pieces, especially these important squares where you would want to infiltrate with the rook. So maybe it's saying that this rook on the d file is not super useful here. It's going to be better on the c file, where it can actually start coming in on c7. Because if you can go in and give a check on c7, I think this is nice for white. It's nice to play with. So what is the GM that Hans will play after Nikita? So he will be playing a French GM in Paris next, giving, you know, it's nice of Hans to give all his opponents the home ground advantage. So he's going to be playing against Etienne Bacreux in Paris. And that's going to be on the 20th of August. It's going to be hosted at Blitz Society in Paris, a well-known chess area. So that's going to be super awesome. But this match is still far from over. We have one more game of classical after this one today, and then we go right into the intense stuff. We go into the fast chess with rapid and then blitz on the final day. Yeah, I think it is nice. Well, Vidot's match. His match with Vidot was not part of this one, though, the Hans against the world, right? Will he go to every country? I don't think he's going to go to every country, but when I spoke to him on the interview that I did, he did say he would accept a match basically from anyone, as long as they're very high rated, as high rated as he can get. So I think he was very happy to go and travel around and do these kinds of matches. But I'm sure a lot of people, I don't know, especially after seeing how well Hans played against the niche, maybe they're a little bit worried about how the results would be. He's playing the Speed Chess Championship in Paris. I think that is a nice coincidence because I think he planned this match in Paris before the Speed Chess Championship, before he got into the Speed Chess Championship final. So it's a nice coincidence, at least. All right. Yeah, I think I will sorry for the type. I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear my loud typing. I've got a very clicky keyboard. I'm just going to ask if we can just get one mod in the YouTube chat, just for something, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I am back. Did he just play a move or was he just reaching for the water? I actually can't tell if he was just playing a move. Okay, his time is still ticking down, so he's not made a move yet. He's just had a sip of water. I thought maybe he was reaching for a move. Now he's gone back into the think tank. Maybe we get a long think from Nikita here. When he goes into the tank, he tends to take a while. It is really a big decision for every chess player trying to work out which rook to take with. This rook is just ever so slightly better, but really both were okay. Really both give a small advantage here. A small advantage here for white. So maybe he's not just thinking about, you know, he's not just thinking about, okay, right now, which rook will I take with? He's probably thinking very far down the line where exactly he wants his two rooks to be. What pawn pushes does he want to make in the future? Where is he wanting to infiltrate? What is his plan? So there's probably a lot going into this thought here of how to capture. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if he will go to every country in the world, but it would be cool to see Hans go and play matches with people from a lot of different places. Personally, no bias here, but I think it would be cool if Hans played a match in Australia. maybe a tiny bit biased. Okay, welcome into anybody that is just coming in now. Thank you for watching. Is there any strong GM in Australia? There is a couple of strong GMs in Australia, like 2600 level. Not many, but there's a couple. I think the most famous one is Anton Smirnov. Just in town also, yeah. Yeah, so there's a few strong Australian players. Yes, David Smirnon, because of he's also an author and a coach as well, I believe. So he's very famous, but yes, I think he's around 25-50 or something like that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's playing on the Olympiad team this year. Yeah, so there's quite a few really strong players from Australia. All right. So, yes, you can take with the D rook because the pawn on b7. Okay, so the pawn on b7 should defend because the rook will come into a7. Okay, so you're thinking you want him to take with this rook here because this is going to be defended. But rook a7 isn't really an option, right? Because this knight is defending the a7 square. So you're not really worried about it. You're not worried about rook a7 at any point if that's what you're worried about. Here, I think either rook is okay. There is just the smallest difference between the two. Maybe you want to keep a defense on the b pawn. Okay, more coffees coming in. More coffees delivered. This seems nice. I wish I had this at my chess games, like coffees every 30 minutes or something like that. That seems nice. All right, Hans is having a chat with the arbiter, maybe? Okay, I'm not sure what's happening there. Interesting things happening today. Yeah, that's true. So if you move this rook from the d file, firstly, you can infiltrate on c7 with this rook. Also, this rook is going to support the b pawn as well, and you can maybe think about pushing this pawn to b4, not allowing this black bishop getting out to the c5 square and becoming very active over there. So you just want to keep, whoa, that's not what I suggest, I promise. Okay. So yes, the taking with the d rook slightly better. It seems a little bit strange to not take with the least active rook, because I think most of us would be learning to take with the least active rook. But here we have rook takes c1, and oh no. Okay, let me look at the board. The GG2 board is completely messed up, because this is absolutely not what happened, unless they put something strange in that coffee. Okay, so we had rook d takes c1. So after I think Nikita decides on the best move, and I see from what I can see is that Hans has captured on a2 using his rook, and he does that almost straight away. Hans plays very, very fast. Now, what is going to happen here is this rook is probably going to infiltrate, go to c7, and capture this b pawn. So Hans is essentially going to be left without pawns on the queen side. So rook to c7 might happen, and then we will see this pawn on b7 capturing. So we're going to have to wait until the GGT board fixes, but thankfully today we actually have cameras. Yesterday the GGT board messed up so badly, but there was no cameras also, so I just had to guess what they were playing. But at least now I can just look at the board and see what they're playing. So yeah, he was definitely not played rook takes a3 unless that coffee has something crazy in it. Okay, the GGT board already fixed. That's great. Hello to Sam. I'm doing great. Okay, so we have a pawn being captured on a2. Okay, so bishop takes a3, pawn takes a3. Yeah, so maybe, okay, knight takes a3. Knight takes a3. So what if black takes straight away, though? Takes, but rook b7 comes with check, king g6. Okay, so if knight a3, I think we would have to take, right? Because there's the threat of bishop c4, trapping the rook. So, okay, if knight a3, yes, we go bishop takes a3, b takes a3. And you don't just capture an a3 straight away, you just play rook b8. But rook c7, okay, you can go king g6, you can go king f8. King f8 is apparently slightly better. I would also be worried about these kinds of threats though. Bishop c4 is also always scaring me, but okay, king f8 and it's fine. And then after the rook takes on b7, rook takes, and then we're going to take on a3. And this is looking pretty much like a dead draw, right? This is looking like a dead draw pretty much. Everything is traded off. Hans will maybe push for a little while, but I think they would agree to draw. Okay, so yeah, knight a3 is maybe not the way to go because that will just allow black to capture, go rook b8, trade off the rooks, take on a3, and then just basically play with 4 pawns versus 3, with one rook and 1 knight versus a bishop. So, hello, welcome. Yes, I am back again. This is my last day on the commentary, so if you enjoyed it, I'm really happy. I'm always happy to see positive feedback and that sort of thing. So yes, so my last day commentating. So thank you everybody for making it fun. Hans would not play rook. Well, it makes sense though. It's not really that it's passive in this position, because here what is happening is that you are just defending this pawn, and then you're going to take on a3, allowing a trade of the rooks, and you just go up into the endgame a pawn up. So I think that Hans would actually play this move. It is also possible just to capture an a3. So this could be what happens as well. But now after rook b7, you have to go king g6. You can no longer just go back to the back rank and trade off rooks. Your rook is no longer developed, so you have to go king g6. And I think that now, like, at least white is saying that they're creating an attack here. And you'd have to play even more passive with something like rook to g8, because otherwise g7 is going to be lost. So this would actually be maybe a more passive line where you have to use one of your rooks to defend. It looks like, okay, Nikita still hasn't moved. I'm just checking. Yeah, so this would just be a really not fun and passive way to play. Oh, thank you, Jackie, for the 5 subs. Thank you so much. Okay. How many classical games left? So there is one after this one. So, yep. I'm not sure if I made that the worst way to explain it. This one and one after that, and then it's over. 6 games in total. Okay. Hello, hello. Okay. Yeah, this bishop coming out to c4 could be scary, but let me take it back to the live position, because otherwise this is going to confuse the heck out of people who are just coming in. But yeah, if you do play knight a3, it takes it from being a plus 0.4 position for white all the way down to a minus 0.2 position where black is a little bit better. So knight a3, while it looks good with this threat of bishop to c4, I mean, maybe we want to set something up at some point where we can try and trap this rook, but it just seems like we're a little too slow, and black is just happy to trade down the pieces because they have an extra pawn. So yeah, I don't think we do have any mods. We're having a little bit of chaos in the YouTube chat. I've forwarded on to some of the managers, so hopefully that's all sorted out as soon as possible. I have let them know, so I really hope it's sorted soon. But yeah, unfortunately for now we do not have any mods. Okay. So what else would we want to play here? The most simple way to play is just to go for this check, force the king up to the g6 square, and then just capture on b7. And then we will have equal material here. So both sides will have 4 pawns on the board. Maybe this actually looks quite a bit nicer for white, just because they have this 1 pawn over here on the queen side. Hans has these 2 very, very weak double pawns, and the king on g6, it's probably fine, but it looks a little bit awkward up here. This rook on h8 hasn't developed. The bishop on f8 also hasn't found somewhere to go. Bishop c5 could happen. Bring this out, but then here comes white with something like bishop c4, and you have to play rook a6 to defend. This starts to look really tricky here. So lots of tricky lines. Okay, we do have a move on the board. Has he captured? Sorry guys, I'm having to... Wait, let's see if the DGT board has worked. Okay. Yes, we do have this on the board. So we do have rook c7, king g6, and rook takes b7. So here, this is on the board now. So this is exactly what we're talking about just before, where it does start to become a little bit awkward looking for black. I'm actually a bit worried for Hans here, not going to lie. I mean, I'm sure he's happy to draw, he's fine and totally capable of drawing it. But I just think this B pawn could be a little bit of a nice asset for white to play with. The light square bishop also feels like it could be really nice because the weaknesses here are 2 pawns on e6 and e4. 2 pawns on light squares. This move, bishop c4, coming soon to attack the rook and also attack the pawn on e6, feels scary. So Hans needs to probably think a little bit carefully about his next move. Bishop c5 is possible. There's also the idea to just play e3. And maybe this is the best way to play because here your pawn structure is worse. But if you push the pawn forward with e3, firstly you take this, remove this pawn from the weak square on you remove the weak pawn that was on e4. And if white is going to take, then white will now have a weak pawn on e3. So you trade one weakness for another, but now the problem is you will definitely be down a pawn here. You can play something like bishop c5, targeting this pawn here, and then apparently white has to just allow you to take because, okay, can you defend? Can you defend with king f2? What am I missing? It's knight g4. Oh, you can't go king f2 because then knight g4. Oh, e3 is a nice idea with tactics. Okay. Yes, I now see this. Okay, bishop c5, you can't play king f2 to defend because the knight comes in, checks, and then you capture this pawn here. So this could be a really nice way to just basically get rid of one of the double pawns and win back a pawn here. So that could be an interesting way to simplify things a little bit. Let's see if what is happening. We do have a move on the board, and it is bishop to c5, so bishop c5 has been played. Bishop c5 is on. Yesterday, oh yeah, there's been a surprising number of people mixing up Hans and Nikita. Like, a lot of people thinking that Hans is rocking a man bun now. I mean, I see a little resemblance, just a little. Okay. So. Hello Phoebe, welcome. Welcome. Who will be commenting the next 2 days? So I will be commenting the game with Agne tonight. And then after that, I actually don't know. I do know some of the people that they had in mind, some of the people that they were asking, but I don't know who has confirmed yet. So I don't think I can tell you guys maybe. I think Dina was going to come on for a game, which would be really nice to watch. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I've heard that maybe Dina will be coming on to commentate. But that's about it. I think we're going to have one person tomorrow for the rapid and then one person for the blitz. So maybe some exciting players. Nikita was chosen by his hair. They choose opponents by their hair. Hans told me you could tell us. Ooh, okay, we have rook to c7 on the board. Rook to c7, attacking the bishop that's on c5. Now this is actually interesting move. So here the rook has moved over from the b file to the c file and is attacking this bishop in the center. And this bishop is having a hard time finding a home. It's having a hard time finding out where exactly to go. So you can't really stay on this nice diagonal here because every square except b6, okay, you can go to b6, but every square on this diagonal, except for the b6 square, is controlled by this knight or the pawns, one of Nikita's pieces. So bishop b6 is possible, but then rook c6 can be played, attacking this bishop here, and then you have to play something like rook b8 to defend. And this bishop is becoming a little bit tangled up in some complications there. So you could just avoid this. After rook c7, you could just play bishop to b4, but then the rook can actually come up to the c4 square and then target the bishop over here. So basically this poor bishop is going to be chased around. It's going to be chased around and it's not going to be fun. You can go rook c4 here, and then something like bishop to a5, and the rook can sort of just shuffle around, now attacking the e6 pawn. And okay, if something like bishop d2, here we go, the rook can capture here on e6, and then white will have an extra pawn. So yeah, this is actually becoming a little bit of a problem here. A little bit of a problem here for Hans. This bishop has not got an easy path of how it can avoid this rook, and also manage to keep the e pawn safe, because after bishop e6, rook c6, this pawn on e6 is probably going to be captured. So yes, if here and here, this pawn on e6 will probably be lost. Hans will be down a pawn. He will have to play the position down a pawn. White will have a passed pawn on the b file. And I think this will be really, really tricky. Hans will still probably be completely fine to play it, but it's starting to look a little bit scary. So where else can you go? This is not an option because of the knight. Bishop f8 is also apparently an option, but looks extremely sad. To play bishop f8 to c5 and then move all the way back to f8 looks extremely sad. I think that this is probably way better for white. After something like rook to c8, okay, now you can't really move this bishop. You have to work out a plan like h5, try and get this rook out. Looks very, very awkward. Bishop to f8 probably will not happen. So maybe we will see bishop b6, rook c6, and this pawn on e6 being lost. And then Hans will come into some trouble. Bishop c4, also a threat, attacking the rook, attacking the bishop. This is really tricky. For sure, yeah. What about rook a6 if the pawn takes bishop f2 check? Oh, okay. So you're thinking after bishop b6 and rook c6, maybe we could go rook to a6. Maybe we could go rook to a6. Now, what is the problem with this? Okay, so you can sort of counterpin your opponent. This is interesting. I was trying to work out what is the problem here, because rook a6 looks interesting. You're threatening to go bishop f2 check and take the rook here. Okay, this is probably not a big threat, because anyway, we can just go rook c1 and then this bishop is pinned. But we have an immediate win if rook a6, knight d4. And then this unveils the bishop's attack. This unveils the bishop's attack on the rook. And also, you can no longer take f2 with check. So rook a6, knight d4. And if you take on d4, then this is going to be hanging over here on a6. And now the rook has to move off. Of defending this bishop. And then you can take on e4 with the knight. And this looks even stronger to take on e4 with the knight as opposed to the rook. So let's go back a few moves. Rook a6 was an interesting try though. That knight on d4 was yeah, that knight d4 move definitely shuts things down though. Okay. Bishop b6 is really looking, bishop b6 and bishop b4 are the only possible moves, but both of those moves don't look great. I think that bishop b4 might even be what happens, because bishop b6, it just looks really tricky to hold after this move, rook c6. Rook b8, you can take on e6. Can you take on e6 straight away, or am I missing something? Can I just take here? Yes, I can. I can take here straight away. So you can just win a pawn here if bishop b6. Bishop b4, you don't win a pawn directly. But apparently this is even a little bit better for white. Okay, after knight d4. Knight d4 is a threat. And then rook, if bishop d6, rook c6 again. And it basically looks like we're forced to lose a pawn here as black. I'm not seeing any way we can stop this. So, okay, after rook c7, how do we stop ourselves from losing the pawn? I think Hans will maybe learn he has to just give up the pawn here. He's sort of deep in a think now, maybe feeling a bit of pressure in this position. Nikita has played an excellent game so far. All right. Okay, so I still think we have no mods in YouTube, so it's basically anything goes out there in the YouTube chat. A lot of things are happening over there, but I think I think it's settled down a little bit. Hopefully. Okay. So what are we going to do here? Bishop b6, we lose a pawn by force, and bishop b4, it looks like it too. So I guess you just have to decide which square you would prefer your bishop to be on and decide on this one. And hope you can maybe try and win back the b2 pawn. Hope you can try and create a target on b2. Only problem will be that it is not so easy to target this pawn. And it can start pushing forward quite easily. So how are we going to do it? Maybe having to bring one of the rooks to the center, but I think we have to play rook b8 at some point to defend. And then maybe just try and place the pressure from the rook on b8, up on the b file. The bishop will be on b6, and maybe it will go to a5 from there. I'm not sure exactly where the bishop will end up. Maybe at some point we're going to play knight d5 also. So, but yeah, bishop c4 is always a threat. Feels a little bit scary, a little bit tricky. Hans is going to win this game. You believe Hans is going to win this game? That's great. I'm just trying to, I think that I'm trying to see it from Hans's shoes. Not literally, but see it from Hans's perspective. If I was in Hans's position right now, I would maybe be a little bit worried. This does not mean that the result of the game is going to be a loss because I am worried. Absolutely. I think Hans is a very, very good player. And I think if I'm going to predict accurately, I would predict it's going to be a draw. But I'm just saying that maybe a little bit of difficulties to solve out here. And that's probably why Hans is actually taking a lot of time here, because in the last few games, Hans has never been down on the clock. He has always been playing very, very fast. There's really been no time we have seen Hans lower on the clock, basically. He's always been playing very, very quickly. So it may even indicate just the fact that he's taking more time, that he's having a little bit of problems here. A little bit worried about the position, but this is still completely fine as long as he keeps composure and makes sure that he creates a nice plan to attack this pawn on b2. And as we were talking about, there's always threats to just play e3 and get rid of this pawn, sacrifice another pawn in the process, but leave white with a less nice pawn structure and get rid of the weak pawn over here. It's looking difficult to win. I definitely agree with that. But nothing is impossible, of course. Anything could happen. There is still a lot to go in this classical game. We're only 20 moves in. I think we've seen a lot of games go way, way longer than this. A lot of games have gone way longer than this. So for now, he's probably just trying to calculate all these lines. Okay, where should I put this bishop? Because there's really no other moves you would be considering. Your bishop is under attack, so you have to move it somewhere. But he's probably not only calculating where I want to put this bishop, but also the potential consequences of what is going to happen after he moves this bishop. It's a lot of action for 20 moves. Yeah, it's been a really exciting game, actually. Compared to the last two games, which were quite, quite slow games, this one has been a really exciting one in terms of the complications. So when there is some complications, there's always chance for either side to win, so we could see a win coming out of this game. I think most likely it will go down to a draw, just because we have just one extra pawn for white, and we have the knight and the bishop for both sides, two rooks. I think most likely it will end in a draw, but either side really could try and play for the win. In the knight a3, bishop a3, we'll play rook d8. Ah, okay, you're going back to earlier. Yeah, for sure. So after knight a3, most players would take, I think. You think most players would play rook d8 and not rook b8, not defend the pawn. Rook d8, and then after rook b7, king g6. And okay, you can't play this yet. Bishop c4, rook a3, and then with some idea of going rook d2 and trying to infiltrate over here. So this would be interesting. This is looking very equal according to the engine, but yeah, black does get a very fast chance to start coming in with the two rooks trying to infiltrate on the second rank and take some pawns over here. So this would be very interesting. Knight also has a chance to hop in and create some targets on F2 and H2 as well. Yeah, I think that would have been a really interesting line to play down. So it's maybe unfortunate that we didn't get to see Knight A3 on the board, because I think with that Knight A3 line, there could have been a lot of really exciting stuff to happen. But the thing is, it would be a little bit of a mistake here from white. So not the best move from white, but it would have been really cool to see that playing out on the board. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, here in the current position that we're in, I think it's still very interesting though. This pawn on E6, okay, it's a goner. It's a goner. This pawn on B2, we have to work out a way to target it. All right, shall we do a prediction at this point? Okay, I'm going to make a prediction in the Twitch chat. If people want to make a prediction on what the result is going to be, unless we already have one, then just ignore me. But I think this could be a good time to make a prediction. Okay, let's do it. Both players back at the board. Might see a move soon. I'll keep watching them just for if they're going to make a move. Okay, I'm going to set up a prediction. I'll mute my mic so you don't hear my loud keyboard. Oh, we have a move. We have a move. Okay, let me refresh. Rook C6 on the board. Okay, we have Bishop B6. We have Bishop B6, best move. Rook C6 is on the board. And here, yes, you can play Rook A6, but you get into trouble after Knight D4. After Knight D4, things get into trouble. So Rook B8, only move here. Rook B8 is absolutely the only move here for black. And he plays it very fast, really nice. And here, Hans is just going to put all the pressure on B2. All the pressure on B2. So this is going to be really interesting. White can just take on E6 straight away if they want. G3 is actually the top engine move, but I think I would maybe just want to take this pawn here. It's maybe not going anywhere, but I think there's no problem here for white in just cashing out and grabbing this pawn. If you go rook takes E6, rook takes E6, what will black play? Okay, bishop c5 is an option. Rook a4 is also an option. It's starting to look really tricky for black. Okay, h5 also makes a little bit of sense. Trying to push over here. So, yes. White might just take, but they could play something else as well. But I think there is a very good chance that he will just grab this pawn here that's on the e6 square. So, let's see. I'll just refresh, and then I will start the next prediction in just a moment. All right, we have a prediction up now. We have a prediction up. Yes, I think Chad wants, we want to see a win, of course. Okay, I probably should have set up the prediction. I probably should have set up the prediction at the start of the game, but I think a lot of people are now going to say draw because we've had a lot of piece trades and the position is simplified or not a lot. But let's see what actually happens here on the board at the moment. Will white cash in and grab the pawn? Will they play something first? They can actually play rook c4. Sorry, not rook c4. Bishop c4 first, forcing this rook to move somewhere. But then after something like rook a4, you can't actually take anymore. The bishop is going to be attacked. Okay. What if you play b3? Rook a2 happens now. Okay, now Hans is making threats of his own and f2 is under attack. So b3 could be a mistake there. Okay, that would be interesting. So maybe the pawn wants to stay on the b2 square for now and stop this rook a2 idea. Rook takes e6 is played though. He does just take the pawn. I thought this would be the most likely. And here Hans immediately responds with the best move on the board, which is rook a4. So this is bringing in some extra defenses over here to this e4 pawn. making sure it will not be lost. And what is another plan of this? Is there a plan to go rook to b4? Is this the idea? I'm thinking that maybe going over here, your plan is to go rook b4, and then from here, you will have 2 rooks lined up on the b file. What a creative way to double up the rooks. This would be nice. Yeah, g3 seems, as somebody said in the chat, inhumanely patient, which I think is a great way to describe it. It feels almost too patient. Knight c3 feels like a more human move, targeting the pawn, moving this knight out of the way of any potential tactics down the b file as well. But I think that the plan is to go here with the rook. Maybe if the knight is moving, you're going to d4 instead. So this looks really interesting now. How many classical to go? One more game after this. So yes, we are in round number 5 out of 6. All right, how about time management? I haven't really seen this. Okay, Hans is down to 50 minutes. Hans is down to 50 minutes. Bishop f2 is not possible yet because the knight is still defended by this bishop on f1. If you did happen to play like g3 and bishop g2 or something like that, but I think g3, the plan is actually to go king g2, not bishop g2. So you keep the bishop defending here. You keep the bishop defending here. Maybe rook b4 could prepare some... No, I don't think so. Rook b4 isn't really going to prepare any sacrifice. It's really just to try and attack down here. Okay. There's a game in 4 hours from now. Yes, the next game starts at 2 p.m. 2 p.m. I think London time. Or 4 p.m. 4 p.m. London time. Somebody will have to check. Yeah, I think it's 4 p.m. London time, I believe. How can you have 7.5 points if there is only 5 rounds? So they're giving out 3 points per win. They're giving out 3 points, not 3 pawns, 3 points per win for the classical and 1.5 points for a draw. And then I think for the rapid, it's 2 points per win. So the classical rounds are a little bit weighted in this tournament. Yeah, rook b4 would, rook a4 would prevent bishop c4, but also I think we're going to prepare to go rook to b4. I think that's what we're going to do. Okay, so h3, rook b4, then, what will be played next? What will be played next? Knight d6 is the only move I think that looks very human. Rook e5 looks strange. I guess adding some extra defense? Okay, maybe rook e5 could be played, but it looks a little bit strange. Yes, that's possible. Yes, that is possible. White could play b4 to block, but then as soon as white is pushing the b pawn, now Hans is going to get really active with the rook and the bishop here. He's going to get really active with the bishop and the rook here, attacking on f2. And yeah, this is really crazy. You have to play g3, allow Hans to take on f2, move the king to h1, and just calmly play as if nothing has happened. Allow this pawn to maybe even get all the way up to d6 even. Sorry, not d6, e3. I'm thinking of the board upside down in my mind. All the way up to e3. So you can allow this pawn to push all this way. This looks absolutely crazy. But after rook a2, I really don't see how you actually defend this. None of these pieces can come to defend. So I don't think b4 will be played because rook a2, and then you just have to allow the pawn to be taken. So that's why I'm not sure we'll see b4. So Instead, knight c3 I think was possible. Knight d6 also, just trying to create some extra attack on the pawn. h3 or g3 also something that I think looks pretty normal, trying to create some luft for the king, maybe to hide the king on the g2 square. g3 is maybe better because you put the king on a light square. So yeah, I don't think we will see this move b4 just because rook a2 feels like some really strong attack for Hans. Okay. All right, we've got a prediction going with 93,000 points on draw, 3,000 points on win, and 20,000 on loss. Okay, not many people thinking Hans will get the win today. All right, so with knight c3, is rook b4 no longer an idea? Oh, knight d5, oh my gosh. Okay. I was like, why can't we play this anymore? Knight c3, okay, knight d5. Knight d5, and we can't take because we're pinned. And then the rook can go nowhere. The rook can go nowhere to defend all of this. Okay, this is crazy. You can't bring, wait, so what are you saying? You can play knight takes e4. Knight takes e4 is possible, but knight d5, and the rook can't go anywhere where it stays defending this bishop, because if you go rook b3, bishop c4, the bishop comes in, starts targeting this, starts targeting the rook over here, and there is nowhere that you can go, and you just end up losing a piece. So that is why you cannot go rook b4 there. Okay, so that is very interesting. That's very interesting. So if knight to c3 is played, you need to move the rook somewhere, and okay, rook d4 seems to make the most sense. You stay defending this pawn that's on e4. You stay defending the pawn that's on e4. To go back with the rook down to a7 or something doesn't feel natural at all. You can play knight to e4, rook e4. When was this? Sorry, let me... Yeah, so you're saying here. Okay, so knight e4, rook e4, rook e4, and bishop d3. Ah, okay, there's some threats. Let's see. So knight e4, rook e4, and then you can play bishop d3. Okay. Nasty pin, nasty pin. King f5 is possible, but then there's a move like rook takes over here, and just f3 and taking the rook. Okay. That looks a little scary. Okay, there's a lot of lines which look very, very scary for black. So there's lots of threats. There's lots of threats on this pawn here. So if you play knight c3, black is actually in a lot of trouble. Knight e4 is possible. You can't go rook b4 because of knight d5. So you have to go rook d4, but then there's tactics with knight e4. And the bishop is going to come in, pinning the rook to the king. And something like f3. And this is starting to look really, really scary for Hans. He would be having to play this position with 2 pawns versus 4. And I'm really not sure whether... how confident he would feel going into that sort of endgame. So let's see. If knight c3 is played, Hans could be in a little bit of trouble. I think he was talking about Hans Niemann. Not me. Okay. But I also need sleep more. Okay. We do have similar names, so sometimes, because, you know, like, sometimes people, they call me Han as a nickname for Hannah, like, my mom and my friends, they've always called me Han. So then when people are saying, like, Hans or something like that, I'm like, wait. For a moment, I think they're talking about me. Okay. No, I don't only facts. Okay. So, oh, he's looking at the camera right now. He's giving a look. What's he thinking about? He always has a very good poker face. He doesn't show much on his, of what he is thinking, to be honest. Really like this plan. Yeah, it looks like Nikita is playing really well. Knight c3. Knight c3, and we could be in some trouble. If something else is played by white, yeah, b4 I was not so convinced by after rook a2. G3 is also possible, but seems super duper solid. This could happen, but it allows Hans a little bit of time. He gets to play this move, rook to b4. And if knight c3 here, king f7. And now you've erased a lot of these problems that come from this pawn and the king being on the same diagonal. This bishop can never come in. It can never really start pinning you. The idea with the g3, also you can bring this bishop out to a3 to defend over here. But yes, some other moves for white, and it should be fine. If he gets time to play this rook b4 move, if he gets time to start attacking down the b file, this is great. But the problem is knight c3 and you can't play rook b4. e4 or d4? I play e4 every time, but I would love to learn to play d4. I think, you know, there's a lot of beautiful d4 games that I find really cool. I would love to learn to play it one day. Okay. Yeah, Hans is currently deciding who to mod on YouTube, yeah. Okay. Nikita is starting to churn through some time. He was actually up 15 minutes on the clock. Maybe even 20 minutes on the clock just before, but now he's going through a lot of his time here. And this might be because he sees something that he likes and he wants to calculate it. It's no longer just that he wants to play some solid maneuvering moves. He sees something that he likes here, or he's trying to calculate something for sure. Okay. Well, knight c3 is putting the pressure on. We just quickly looked at the lines here. Knight c3, and the idea is that the rook can only go to one square, which is d4. It can't go to b4 because of this knight d5 move, attacking the bishop and the rook. And once the rook moves somewhere, you're going to be winning a piece here, so it can't go there. Obviously can't go to c4 because of this bishop, and rook d4 can be met by knight takes e4. Rook takes e4 and bishop d3, and after king f7, you can play takes. You can play takes on b6 and then f3 after this, and just play this. Okay, so this is what the endgame would look like. Okay, maybe it's something like this, takes, and this looks like a really nice endgame for Nikita. Okay, Hans will be able to grab this pawn, but I think this looks really nice. You have the pass b pawn. It's something to play with. So knight c3 does seem to lead to some really interesting lines. Okay, but the rook move is completely obvious, but this is the only move that you need to play, and then you can go right into this endgame where you're winning a pawn. This looks super awesome, because this is the best move on the board, but it also leads to some complications where this can just be captured. So yeah, this is the best move on the board, but it still doesn't seem like it's looking too great. Okay, so yeah. All right, let's see what is played though. Someone says it would be great for Hans to lose this game to make the match a little bit closer and exciting. I don't know if we want that though. If he ends up losing the match, that would be unfortunate. I would like to see a draw this game. That's what I would like to see. I think that would be nice. And then maybe a win for Hans tonight. Yeah, I think this knight c3, I know that some people in chat aren't convinced that this is the way to play, but I think knight c3 really could be a great way to go for the advantage here. What else would you try and play for the advantage? What else would you try and play? Because anything else, the problem is that if you don't play this right away, if you don't attack this rook, then Hans is going to get time to either play king f7, attacking the rook and moving out of this diagonal where the bishop can come in and pin you, or he gets time to play rook b4 and put pressure on this b2 pawn. So if you don't play this right away, then you give Hans the time to consolidate, to get the pieces where they want to go. So yeah, this rook on b1 is not super happy right now. You prefer knight to d6? Yeah, knight to d6 was also something that we looked at. Knight to d6 was something that we looked at as well. It does a lot of the same things. It's not attacking the rook though. It's not attacking the rook, so we can also look at knight to d6. Okay, so after knight to d6, you have the same idea where you can maybe go and capture on e4. Is there any way to defend this? You can't go king f5 or king f7 now. That's actually a really nice thing about knight to d6, is it stops the king from coming into either one of these squares. Okay, so what would you want to do? Really, this isn't so fun. Okay, do we play rook b4 now? Oh, b3 is apparently strong after rook b4 here. Okay, but apparently it's fine. Apparently it's fine. Apparently it's 0.5. Okay, can we still capture here though? Is this still possible? No, now king f5 is possible. Okay. All right, this looks interesting though. This looks very interesting. Everything else is, yeah, I think that knight d6 could be possible, but maybe knight c3 will happen. Let's see. Let's see. Do you think Hans has a bigger edge in one of the other formats, Blitz and Rapid? I honestly haven't seen Nikita play a lot of Blitz and Rapid, but I know that Hans is one of the best Blitz players. So I think without knowing too much about it, I think that Hans would have an advantage in the Blitz match. So if he can draw the last 2 classical games and then go into the Blitz and Rapid confidently, that would be awesome, with a little bit of a lead. So yeah, I would think that Hans has some advantage, but I honestly have not seen a lot of Nikita's Blitz. I know he has been playing a lot of classical. He's been playing a lot of classical, but I don't know if he's playing so many Blitz tournaments. Okay, is this a tournament? So this is a match, so it's one-on-one. He's just having a one-on-one match with another strong player, and they're playing 6 classical games, and then they're playing some Blitz games and also some Rapid games. So they're not going to be playing anyone else but each other this tournament. You get to know each other very well by the end of it. But yeah, so far Hans has also been mixing up, well, actually Nikita's been mixing up his openings a little bit. He's been playing a little bit of e4, a little bit of d4, so he's been playing some different things each round. Okay. Who sponsors it? I have no idea, Fen. Winning the classical seems like a decisive advantage for Hans. Yeah, I agree, especially because I think the Rapid games are worth 2 points or something like that. But the problem is that something like Blitz or Rapid, it can be a slippery slope. With classical, you can lose a game and then take a break and come back stronger. But with Blitz and Rapid, I feel as if you start losing in a match versus someone, then it can just be all downhill from there. I know that players this strong are probably well versed in knowing how not to go down this tilt rabbit hole. But yes, if you lose the first game, it can just be downhill from there and be a little bit scary. I don't think Hans has ever played Levy over the board. Somebody is asking if Hans has ever played Levy. I know that they've played Entitled Tuesday, but I don't think they've ever played each other over the board. Have I followed St. Louis Rapid and Blitz? No, I haven't been watching that. I haven't been watching that, no. Okay. Yeah, before the Blitz, you have to be very well rested and making sure you're on your A game and you don't get lost in a tilt streak or something like that. Okay. They haven't played it? Yeah, okay. They haven't played. All right. Who is he facing third? He has a third match against Etienne Bacro in Paris, coming up in just around a week from now. So that'll be the third and final match of Hans Niemann versus the world. You can rename it to Hans Niemann versus 3 people. But no, it's been really exciting so far. Okay. Did they just get a third coffee? They've been having a lot of coffee. They've been bringing around a lot of espresso throughout the tournaments. Tournaments often, yeah, the reason why they're wearing, you know, like nice shirts and stuff is tournaments usually have a dress code, and well, yeah, they try and dress nice. All right, it looks like we've just had a move come through. We've just had a move come through. What has been played? Let me refresh. Let me refresh. Okay. Ooh, H3. Okay, this is actually something we looked at right at the start about H3 or G3. And I was wondering whether h3 would happen. Okay, but this was a long while back that I talked about this move h3, but it did happen. There was no knight move, there was no knight d6, there was no knight c3. So now rook b4 is possible. Thank you, Lewis, thank you. I appreciate it, I appreciate that, thank you. Okay, so h3 has been played, and I wonder what exactly is the idea with the h3. I mean, I guess this is just a solid move, just trying to make some look for the king. Maybe g3 will happen in the future, but playing h3 first. Maybe the king wants to go to h2 at some point, rather than going to g2. So here, h3 has been played. Okay. So we could see rook b4 by Hans, and I think this is the plan with going rook a4, bring the rook over here, and target b2. So I think that now Nikita might have a little bit of problem with defending the b pawn in the future. Could be a problem with defending the b pawn in the future. So let's see what happens. Okay. Preventing knight g4. Well, knight g4 is somebody was asking preventing something like king f7 and knight g4. I feel like knight g4. Okay, maybe there was some idea of this in the future. Okay, king f7. Yeah, that could be it. That could be it. But if you're worried about king f7 and knight g4, maybe that's why you play knight d6. And then king f7 isn't happening. But maybe he was thinking that this, and after something like this, the knight could come in if you're not playing h3. Knight could come in and start targeting f2 with the bishop and the knight teaming up together. Okay. So yes, h3 is on the board, and I think this is actually a moment where we sigh a little bit of a relief for Hans, because the position was starting to get really tricky. It was starting to get really tricky if something like knight c3 or knight d6 was played, or g3 even. g3 and king g2 could have been potential plans, or even g3 bishop h3. There was lots of ideas here that could have been played, but h3 thankfully is not creating any threats, so allows Hans to make a couple of moves to maybe improve his position, get his pieces to better squares. King f7 is now going to be possible. King f7 will be possible, and they don't have any way to bring in this knight and stop you from getting your king out to this f7 square. So this is looking nice. So yeah, now I think this should be completely okay for Hans to get this draw. Before it was starting to look a little bit worried if he had to go into that endgame down a pawn, but now it's starting to look a little more okay. Ooh, strongest Australian chess player. Now, I'm going to struggle with saying his name. I'm gonna pronounce his name very wrong. But I think the strongest Australian player is Timur. How is it pronounced? Like Kubakorov or something like this. Okay, I didn't know how to pronounce it, but yes. Strongest. Yeah, I definitely did not pronounce that right at all. But he is around 2,600 FIDE, so strongest Australian chess player is around 2,600, I think. Okay. Yes, that is right. You like watching matches with commentary? I'm glad. I'm happy that you like watching matches with commentary. That's good. Yes. Well, it's funny you make the comment that the best Australian is Russian. Because Nikita, Hans' opponent today, is the highest rated player in England and is also Russian. So it's quite funny that a lot of places, their highest rated player is someone who has come from Russia and they changed the federation. So this is the same deal. Highest rated player in England moved federation from Russia about a year ago or something like that. Okay. Oh yeah, Smirnov is Russian, and then oh okay, Timur is from Uzbekistan. Okay, cool, cool. Yeah. Yes, yes. There's not that many chess players in Australia, so some people move over here and start playing chess over in Australia, but there's more Australians, more Australian chess players coming up, so that's good. Who is the strongest Australian girl? So her name is Julia, and I actually last time I played her, I drew her in a rapid tournament, so that was very exciting. She is a women grandmaster. She is also from Russia as well, but yeah. Smirnov grew up in yeah, I think he was born in Australia. But yes. Do you like the Charlie Gambit? I've never heard of the Charlie Gambit actually. Okay. That's cool. I have to look it up though. Thank you for the information. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm like number 15, somewhere around number 15 woman in Australia or something like that. But yeah, my FIDE is not very good. It's like 1800, but last year I was 1300 FIDE and I've gotten up to 1800 FIDE. So from 2023 to 2024, I've gained 500 rating, and I hope I can gain some more. I hope I can continue to gain some more. I hope to really keep improving. That's my goal. Watching players like really strong players like this is always very inspiring. But yes. Anyway, we do have rook b4 on the board. Hans has moved his rook over to b4 and now is creating the attack on the b2 pawn. So here, I think in the long run that Nikita will have a difficult time defending this pawn that's on b2. All right. So let's see. Okay. I was just trying to see. I'll catch up with everything in the chat. Chat is very busy today. in the YouTube chat is very busy today. I was just keeping up with everything there. Okay. So yes, rook b4 has been played. Now this gives Nikita another opportunity, maybe to try and play this move, bringing this knight over to d6. Knight c3 is still possible, but now there's an interesting idea to go bishop d4, and then you've got a lot of pressure on the b2 pawn, and you're probably going to be losing the b2 pawn that way. Okay, if knight d6 is played, Hello? 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 Oh, okay, it's working. Sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, my mic just stopped working out of nowhere. I honestly had no idea why. I'm really sorry. I was just trying to get my mic to work. I had to go play with things behind the computer. So I really apologize for that. I was talking about moves for a very long time with no noise. Okay. Let's see. I may have clicked too many buttons while I was mixing things around, so I'm sorry if it's not great. Okay, sounds unbalanced. Okay, wait, let me. Hello, 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 hello. Is it better? I think I accidentally clicked a bunch of buttons. Okay, wait. I will switch it over. I'll see if I can use the other mic. Just see if this is better. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I'm so sorry. Sounds good? Okay. Alright. I really apologize for that, guys. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. I will not scream. Okay. Now the sound is on the other side. No. I can try and reset it. I think I just accidentally clicked a bunch of buttons. Wait. If I just... This is when I have two mics out. Okay. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay. I think we will deal with this for now, and I will try and... I will try and fix it for later. Okay. I will... Wait, so... Okay. It seems like if I have both mics, you will be able to hear both sides. Oh, it's just terrible, isn't it? Okay. Okay. So this is when I have both. All right. Yes. Okay. All right, I'll keep it like this for now. I really apologize about technical difficulties. I wish it would never happen, but unfortunately it does. Thank you so much for staying patient with me, chat. And yes. Okay. Let's enjoy the rest of this game, and don't worry guys, today is my last day here, so after this there will be no more Hannah, so it'll just be this last round here, but I hope you guys can enjoy this one. Okay. All right. So let me fix everything. So what we have here is rook b4, and now we have an interesting move played. We have b3. Okay, so b3 has been pushed. So, okay. All right. I will just quickly get some water, chat, and I will be right back. Thank you so much. I'll get some water and I'll be right back. So we have V3 being played, and yes, as somebody mentioned, this rook has almost been trapped. So you need to be very, very careful about this. Something like bishop c5 is suggested, just so that you can maybe try and set up this idea to capture the knight that's on b5. Two pieces for the rook would be super great, so then the knight has to move somewhere else. And bishop c5 forces the knight to move, and then maybe in the future you can just capture on b3 and things will be better there. So I will quickly get some water. I will be right back, guys. Thank you so much for all the patience with the technical difficulties, and hopefully the rest of this will go really, really nicely. I will see you guys in just a moment. Hello everybody, I'm back. Okay, so I will just get everything set up. I'm back here. Okay, let's continue with the game. So here we have Hans playing king to f5. So the king has come up to the f5 square and is attacking this rook. It is attacking this rook here, so this rook needs to move somewhere. Whoa, but what has happened here? What has happened with the evaluation? Wow. This is not looking great. So what has gone wrong? I wonder what is so wrong with king f5. It looks like a good move. We're forcing this rook to move away. So what is the problem with it? So it must be something a little bit down the line. So after the rook moves, if it goes to c6, what is the issue here? I really am not seeing the issue yet. Because it seems like we've forced this rook to move out. We've improved the position of the king. And alright. There is this idea to push forward by playing e3. There's this idea to push forward by playing e3 and try and trade off this pawn finally. This could be nice. Thought rook e7 was the problem. We thought rook e7 was the problem. Yes, rook e7 can be played. Okay, so if king f5, rook e7, the g7 pawn is under attack. Can we play g6? Or what do we need to play here? Or does the king just go back to g6? Okay, let's think. Sorry. Okay. So, okay, if rook e7 is played here. Rook e7 is played here. I don't really see this. Okay, so you allow them to take over here. Bishop c5 is a double attack. Okay, that's the thing. It's a tactic there. Okay, that's cool. Because we're creating the threat to take two pieces for the rook over on b5. And then also attacking the rook. So we allow them to take here. And then you'll capture. And then this will actually just be a nice endgame. A nice endgame here for Hans. Okay. Okay. So this would be nice here. So rook g7 is really not an actual threat. So rook e7 and rook g7 isn't really an actual threat. So that's nice. Okay, so king f5, rook e7 wasn't the problem. It's this move rook to c6. So will rook to c6 be played? Nikita's time is counting down. He needs to find where to go. I think rook e7, it does look almost natural, but I guess it just tactically doesn't work because there's all these threats over here on the b5 knight and also creating the attack from the bishop on the e7 rook, allowing yourself to give up this g7 pawn. So, okay, this is very interesting. King f5 and rook c6 can happen. So after rook c6 and e3, I'm really not seeing why this is a huge advantage for white though. I guess let's see a little bit down the line. If Hans does go for this push with e3, the knight can go to d6 and check the king. Okay, the knight can go to d6 and check. And then after this, oh, this is starting to look really tricky. Okay, so if knight d6, if we go back to g6, maybe the bishop is coming out to d3, and maybe there are some big problems there. Okay, so we can't go back to g6 because this bishop is coming out, attacking the king. Okay, let's see. So after e3, knight d6, what if you go over to g5? What if you move here? Okay, this is really crazy. It doesn't make a huge amount of sense why it's giving white this big advantage here. It's saying after g3 and black takes on f2 and after king g2, this is just really nice for white. But I think that here, practically, it doesn't look like a huge problem for Hans. So this is very interesting. He certainly won't play rook e7 just because there's an immediate tactic. So I think rook c6 is really likely here. Really possible. Again, if you play rook d6, there's again the same idea of going bishop c5. So putting your rook onto a dark square really allows any tactics like this. So rook c6, sorry, is the only possible move that won't be a mistake for white. So one move that you can make without a mistake. Okay, there is also actually this move, bishop to c4 to defend. But then there's some complications. You can capture here on c4, removing the defender, and then you would get this big trade down over here. So white then has to sacrifice their rook because the defender of the rook has been removed. And then after this recaptures here, Hans is probably going to draw this, and this would be fine. So some interesting things here. So rook c4 is really the only one to go for the advantage though. Yeah. I bet with 2 human players, you'll see this is slightly better for white. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the end of the day, white has an extra pawn. So, of course, white should always be a little bit better. Because they have an extra pawn. But black, I think here, it doesn't really look like there is a concrete way to really go straight for a win as white. So I think, honestly, at least for now, Stockfish is overestimating the white advantage for now. So if you push this pawn forward towards to e3, then you can probably just get this pawn traded off. And then hope for the best here. Try and win back b3. That's going to be the goal. Okay. So let's see. I will just quickly refresh and make sure I haven't missed anything. Nikita getting a little bit low on time, down to 28 minutes. Down to 28 minutes here. Hans was actually a lot lower on time to about 10 moves ago, but he has gained all of that time back and is going really, really well now. Okay. He decides his moves based on a gut feeling. Well, I think a lot of players need to please update the board. This is the position. This is the position. I think. I've refreshed. I'll try again just to make sure I haven't missed anything. No, this is exactly the position that is on the board right now. Exactly what we have right now. I wonder what he is calculating. Well, he's definitely deciding where to put this rook, but yeah, rook c4, rook c6. I keep saying rook c4. I've got the board upside down in my head for some reason, but rook c6 is most likely going to be played. Rook c6, 27 minutes on the clock. So yes, white will always, at least for now, have this passed b pawn, which should be a nice asset for it. But if Hans can stop this b3 pawn and eventually try to win it, then it should be completely fine. But I guess if this bishop gets the chance to come out to c4 and maybe be a defender of this pawn on b3, it's going to be tricky for Hans to actually try and win this. Who is winning at the moment? At the moment, Nikita has a little bit of an advantage. It's a +1 advantage. Would you say 10 minutes on the clock? Is it worth a pawn or half a pawn? It depends. Depends how low on time you are, I think. In classical chess, time is not a huge factor until maybe you have like less than 10 minutes or something like that. And a lot of GMs, they can play very, very well with almost 0 time. So at the moment, the engine is giving +1.4, but only for rook c6. But I think rook c6 will happen. Bishop c4 is a possible move, but I just don't think it will happen because it allows for rook takes c4, forcing white to give up this rook for the b6 bishop over here. Yes, this pawn must be traded off. e3 needs to happen. I mean, it could have happened at many points in this game, but it does need to happen at some point. You need to push this pawn forward and basically break up the pawn structure on this side of the board when you can. So I think that rook c6 will happen. I mean, g3, I mean, now he's played h3. That's enough for that. Okay. What would happen to chess if players could see the eval bar? Well, I think that in classical, strong players are very, very good at evaluating the position already. Like, they've got an eval bar in their head. But if they could see the eval bar, okay, maybe they would convert positions better, maybe. They would spot some impossible looking tactics. But honestly, I feel like really strong players, they have like they have an eval bar already in their head. Yeah, no worries. Okay, we have something else. We have rook e7. This is something that somebody suggested earlier, but there is bishop c5. There's bishop c5. And apparently this is still a draw, but I would actually think that black is doing quite well here. After bishop c5, capturing the two pieces for the rook on the b5 square, so you allow white to take another pawn. Oh, they agreed to a draw. Okay, they agreed to a draw, chat. After this move, rook e7, there has been a draw offer, and now they are discussing the game here. So that is going to wrap us up for today's game. That was an interesting one. No, it's the same one, Kane, but I think it's the same mic as usual, but I think I messed up some settings, but alright. It's okay. What just happened? Well, that was a very sudden draw, basically what seemed like out of nowhere. But, you know, as I said, chess players, they have an eval bar in their head. After this move, the evaluation went to exactly 0-0, I think, for the first time in the game. So, first time in the game, it was 0-0, and here they agreed to a draw. So this is really nice for Hans, actually, because Hans was the one who was maybe on the struggling side of the draw. Makes sense they would take a draw because, well, they have 2 games to play today. And I'm sure that maybe here Nikita didn't really feel like he was winning. Yes, Stockfish gave it an advantage for white, but only if rook c6 was played. And I'm sure that for a human, it's really, that advantage wasn't so much, just a little better for white. And maybe he just did not want to push and push and push all afternoon. Okay, so they seem to be talking about the game. We will not have Hans on for an interview, but maybe we will have him on an interview after his final game tonight. So you guys will have Agne on the commentary tonight. I will maybe join in. It will be very late for me, but I will maybe join in for a little bit. I'll see how I go. But then after that, we're going to have some great commentators on tomorrow. So thank you so much, everybody, for having me. And I really appreciate you guys coming in, supporting HANS, and watching this stream today. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing all of you guys in the chat later for HANS' second game of the day. Yes, I may join for a little bit, but it's great to be here. And yes, all right. See you guys later. Have a good one.